Hello, my wolf pack. Welcome to another video on villainous characters versus rotten characters. Today we will be covering the Sword Art Online villain Akihiko Kayaba versus the rotten character of Nobuyuki Sugou. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe down below if you enjoyed this content. So we're going to go right into it. Sword Art Online is an anime and light novel series written by Reki Kawahara. And the first season, we start off with our villain of Akihiko Kayaba, who introduces himself in the very first episode. Kayaba is a brilliant scientist in the virtual world of technology and creating devices that can change how people interact with the internet. In this case, he's created a device called Nerve Gear, which is like a helmet that you put on, plug into a power source, and you can move a virtual avatar in a virtual world called Aincrad, or Sword Art Online, without moving your physical body to do so. This is considered groundbreaking and going to be huge. And he starts off by selling 10,000 of the first copies of the Nerve Gear and Sword Art Online to 10,000 Japanese players. However, as soon as the game starts, he immediately comes forward as a virtual game master or system administrator and tells these 10,000 players that he's gathered together, well, guess what? In the physical world outside, in the real world, if they remove your helmets, if somebody externally tries to remove the helmet, after 10 minutes of being outside of his power source, the batteries will fry your brains like a microwave. And also, if you die in the virtual world, you will not revive at a cathedral or at a palace. You will die in the virtual world once, and you will die for real in the physical world via the microwave of the Nerve Gear. He has kidnapped, trapped, and is now threatening to kill 10,000 Japanese players in Sword Art Online. He tells these players the only way to escape this game, for all of you to be free, is to beat all 100 floor bosses through SAO. Then you're all free to go. And this is seen in the real world and among the players as such a villainous act that only an insane person could do this, that Kayaba had lost his mind and was doing something absolutely evil. Problem is, nobody knows why he's doing it. In the real world, he is this famous go-getter, this famous internet guru that even our protagonist, Kirito, followed in magazines and all of his lectures. How could this man, this brilliant man, do this? He wasn't after money. He wasn't after fame. Wasn't interested in glory. Why was he doing this? Now, as we go through the season, we see how Sword Art Online is played by the players. And Kayaba, he's in control of this entire thing. He's the only one who has access and control over Sword Art Online. And yet, he doesn't do anything to change the game. He makes it so that the towns are safe zones for the players. Players that commit crimes outside of the town are labeled orange players and can no longer go into the safe zones. But everybody who goes outside the safe zones are traversing danger. You can level up your characters. You can create a new life by becoming a farmer, a craftsman. You can become a merchant. You can become a swordswoman, a spear person. You can do whatever you want if you're willing to brave the dangers of fighting in Aincrad outside the safe zones. And you still feel hunger and you need to sleep, so you have to live a life in Aincrad. But he establishes these rules, and he doesn't break them, not once. He doesn't take control of the game. But we learn from Kirito when we come near the end of the first arc of the season, we learn from him that Kayaba has entered the game himself as a player, using his knowledge of the game and his skills as a virtual reality player to become the most powerful player on the server, where he uses his knowledge of the game and his high defense rates with a beautiful shield, a Red Cross shield, to defend other players from being attacked. He never attacks himself unless he's dueling Kirito. He never attacks monsters or players. He only defends. So he influences the game in that way himself. But he never tries to change the game until Kirito exposes him on the 75th floor, because Kirito is probably the best virtual reality player in the world. And he exposes Kayaba as being in the game and being Kayaba, even though his alias is Heathcliff. He exposes him because he had suspected something after their duel. He attacks Kayaba, and it revealed that he is an immortal object. Kayaba had changed the game in only one way. They couldn't kill him in the virtual world. The monsters couldn't get his health below the green bar. It wouldn't go into the yellow zone where it means he's at half health. An immortal object in Aincrad cannot be destroyed. And so when that's exposed, he tells Kirito and all the other players around him, well, yeah, I'm Akihiko Kayaba. At this point, I'm just going to have to go up to the 100th floor and wait for you all to beat the game. And when you beat the game, that means you've beaten me personally, because I'm the final boss. But he tells Kirito, because of you being able to figure this out, I'm going to fight you one-on-one right here, right now, and I will remove my immortal settings. This is agreed to. Kirito initially loses, but his human willpower overcomes the virtual game, the virtual world's gaming mechanics to beat Kayaba and stab him and defeat him. And Kayaba actually smiles as he's dying in the virtual world. And we see Kayaba later. He tells Kirito and Asuna, he says, as the game is disintegrating, hey, I don't even remember exactly why I did this. Why these 4,000 players of the 10,000 I trapped had to die. I don't even know why, except that I had a dream of a floating world and the virtual and the physical world melding together. I had this dream, and so I created it for myself. Now, as I mentioned, he went under the alias Heathcliff. And we see that return later at the end of the season, where Kirito is fighting against this rotten character of Sugou, and because he knows his name from Sword Art Online as Heathcliff, and Kayaba arrives to help Kirito in the end as as part of the internet, you might say, or the virtual world, and he tells Kirito to get back up and fight against a system, and to fight again against a system he defied and defeated. And so Kirito uses his knowledge of Kayaba from the Sword Art Online to render Sugou powerless. And I'll explain that as we come up. But Kayaba does release these players. The 6,000 remaining players, he releases them from the game. But 300 of those players, including our female protagonist Asuna and Kirito's love, are captured and kept in a virtual limbo in a game called Alfheim Online that has been created by Nobuyuki Sugou, who is our rotten character. Sugou was the understudy, the subordinate, the lackey to Kayaba. A brilliant, very smart at the internet, very smart at the virtual world and programming and things, but utterly without morals or belief system or ideology. He's in it for himself to the very end and will manipulate everybody to achieve those ends. He has an inferiority complex to Kayaba. He wanted to be Kayaba, to be everything he was, but he could never achieve that because Kayaba always outshone him in everything. And he hated Kayaba for that, but he wanted to be Kayaba too. And Kirito mentions this in their confrontation. He says, you lost to him and so did I, but unlike you, I never wanted to be him. And in some ways, that kind of drives Sugou nuts. And we see that when he's confronted by Kirito about this, where he's like, you took everything that was rightfully mine, Kayaba. You're supposed to be dead. But Sugou, we learned that he knew Asuna as a kid and her brother as he was working with her father on the SAO game, which her father was part of, at least making it. We learned that he was always rude and disgusting towards her and her older brother, and that anybody he considered inferior to him status-wise, he was a complete bastard. And that he would suck up to those he felt who were his equal or more powerful than him, like Asuna's father, because he has money and status, and Kayaba. And then, over the 2 years that Kayaba had trapped these 10,000 players in SAO, he'd been manipulating the programming under Alfheim Online, which is another game that Sugou created, because there was a monetary demand for virtual reality still. He uses his programming abilities to take 300 players from SAO who have escaped and trap them again in a virtual limbo within Alfheim Online, under his personal control, including Asuna, who he specifically grabs, specifically to torment, goad, and abuse her in the virtual world of Alfheim Online. And he mocks Kirito for this at the hospital, and brags about meeting Kirito to Asuna, where he underestimates the virtual world in that moment. And I'll explain in a second, but we learned that Alfheim Online is under Sugou's direct control. Yes, there's a board of directors and there's other programmers, but he is in control of it all. He is the game administrator, the GM. He controls the game. And it's a fairy world where fairies have wings. They can only fly for a certain amount of time, and they're all fighting each other. Everything about the game is about one race getting over on the other and fighting each other dog eat dog. And that this main quest of this game is to fly forever. But to fly forever, which lots of players want to do, you have to beat the World Tree quest. And nobody's been able to do that after over a year of playing the game. And so many players are confused as to why. Turns out that when Kirito and his group of friends that he's gathered together to beat the game, when they get to the top of the world tree, or at least the perceived way to get to the top of the tree, they learn through Yui that this was never meant to be a quest. This is never meant for a player to beat. The only way to get through this part of the game is to be the system administrator, to be the GM, to be Sugou. Sugou has placed a barrier between him and the players. He never went down to play the game. He never tried to learn it. He never did any of that stuff. He just controlled it and abused it and used it for his own means. And when Kirito gets through, and we also see Asuna's perspective on this as well, we learn that the 300 players that he kidnapped from SAO, he's been doing experiments in the virtual world on, by manipulating their minds with data and electrical impulses and other experiments on their minds to try and gain control over the human soul, as Sugou, or Oberon the Fairy King, puts it. And when Kirito sees that this is complete freaking fraud, he's angered and everything because he loves the virtual world. And he tries to save Asuna. Sugou catches them and confronts them using his administrative power to pin Kirito down. Then he lowers the pain level, stabs Kirito with a sword, and he says that after you get to level 3, from 10 to 4, you're in pain, but you're not really feeling it in the physical world. It's not affecting your physical body. Below 3, it's going to affect your physical body, the pain in the virtual world. And he's doing this to Kirito. And then he attacks Asuna by ripping her clothes and abusing her, licking her tears. Trying to break down her pride. And enjoying doing that. That's when Kayaba confronts Kirito as this internet fragment, you might say. And he tells him, hey, you stood up to the game against me, and you overcame the game mechanics with your own human will. Get up and do it again. And so Kirito gets up, defies the game mechanics, and when Sugou tries to hit him, he stops him and logs in. Using what he knows about Akihiko Kayaba from SAO, he says, log in Heathcliff. And using that, he sets Sugou King Oberon to administrative level 0, or 1, level 1, meaning that Sugou now has no control. He tries to command the game to give him a powerful sword, and he can't. It doesn't respond, and he starts to insult the game, saying, you useless piece of crap, what do you, I am your god, answer me. And Kirito says, you're not its god, you're a king of thieves. You stole everything from the original guy, from the real creator, Akihiko Kayaba. And you're just a king of thieves. You stole this world and its players. You stole it all. You're just a king of thieves. And that's when they actually start fighting, because Kirito summons a legendary weapon, gives it to Sugou, and Sugou, because he has no idea how to fight, and being a physical coward, Kirito cuts his cheek, cuts off his arm holding the sword, cuts him in half, grabs him by the hair, tosses him up, and skewers him through the eye with the sword. A delicious death we love. Because if Kirito had done that kind of thing, even in the virtual world, to anybody else, we would have been like, that was a little much. Even if he had done it to Kayaba, that would have been a little much to us as viewers. But because it's Sugou, this rotten, corrupted character, we're like, yes. Yes. And when Kirito comes out of the virtual world to go visit Asuna in the hospital because she's supposed to be free now, Sugou tries to kill him. This grown man tries to kill a teenage boy because he got in his way. Thankfully, because of the physical pain he's in, he's taking painkillers, his right eye is in bad shape. His knife misses Kirito, and Kirito grabs up the knife, beats Sugou down, and is going to cut his throat. He stops himself just in time because he knows it's not the virtual world anymore. Sugou pisses himself and faints. Sugou is arrested by police, tries to deny everything and pin it all on Akihiko Kayaba, all the 300 players who've been released, all the stuff that Kirito tells them. But then they start talking to his subordinates, and he says, all right, I admit to everything, but I think I need a psychological evaluation before you throw me in the slammer. So even to the end, he's trying to manipulate everything. And when he was trying to kill Kirito in the physical world, he's saying, oh, I can just go to America. They'll want my expertise. They'll want my skills and the information I've gathered from these 300 players. So he's still thinking he can escape all of this. So that's why Kayaba, we learned by the end of the second season that by the end of the first season that he has given Kirito the virtual world to do with as he wishes. The world of Sword Art Online and the world of and other worlds that can be created by people in the virtual world. And Kirito, instead of destroying it because he hated Aincrad or he hated that it killed 4,000 people, he says, you know what? We will let other people decide what to do. We will send it out into the network and let people decide what to build. And so it creates a new virtual world, basically, including bringing back Aincrad, where Kirito and these 6,000 remaining players had memories of. And many of them return to try and beat the game all over again, but from beginning to the end without a death game, obviously. And it's because Kirito, Asuna, and their friends had great memories there. It's where they built their friendships. It's where they fell in love. So many things. So Kayaba did meld the physical and the virtual world together in that sense. And we learn at the end of Season 2 of Sword Art Online that a lot of his technology from the virtual world, like what is called a medicuboid, is being used to help terminally ill patients deal with the pain that they're in. So that by going to the virtual world, it can numb their bodies more than painkillers can, and they can go into a virtual world and explore things and accomplish things that they can't do in the physical world. So it gives them a sense of freedom, and it's a very touching story. So his technology influences great things, even though it did a very villainous thing under Kayaba's control. And he himself wasn't evil. He made the game of Sword Art Online inherently fair, whereas somebody like Sugou did everything to make it completely unfair and to manipulate it and make it completely under his control, and that it was all for himself and that was it, and for him to toy with people and do with them as he wished. If you go watch the show or read the books, you'll see just how rotten the character is. He is a completely corrupted man, completely devoid of anything but himself. So that is where we will leave off on this video, guys. I know I ranted for quite a while, especially about Sugou, but I wanted to really put into perspective that Akihiko Kayaba did a bad thing, an evil thing, but wasn't himself an evil man, which is why I consider him a villain. He did things to create something that we don't quite understand until the very end. But even in doing so, he never lost his principle of fairness. Whereas somebody like Sugou never believed in any of that. He didn't believe in the virtual world being anything other than a play toy or something for him to gain power, money, prestige. He was always in it for himself, to do with as he wished, to whoever he wished to torment. And so that is where we leave off today, guys. I hope you'll tune in for the next video. And Charlie Black out, my wolf pack.